husband and I married almost 30 years ago, and we have always been in church. And I was singing then, and so when we married, we were both extremely independent. And the way that we did church then in our early marriage is that we thought that God had just gifted us with these great brains, and so we tried to figure everything out, and we would bring God down off the shelf, and we would inquire of him and get some kind of leading, and then we would put him back on the shelf, and we're doers, so we would go 100 miles an hour in that direction until we crashed or went off in a ditch, and then we would try to figure things out again and maybe pull God back down off the shelf. And we were in church, but we just made a mess of things, a lot of things. And the whole time I'm having these thoughts. I'm having thoughts of anxiety and fear and depression and anger. And when we came to church here, it was about 18 years ago. And so we hit the ground running. We were serving him, and we were just doing so much. I was singing on the praise team and leading children's choirs, and my husband was teaching a life group and doing Sunshine Club and had young kids just to hear all the time in church, and just busy, really. And if you looked at us from the outside, everything looked perfect. But I was still having these thoughts, these anxiety and fear and anger and depression. And so I had a lot of responsibility, but I didn't have a lot of relationship. And so I just realized that responsibility without relationship is just religion. And so in 2017, a lot of God things happened, but one thing that happened was God gave my husband a scripture, John 15:5, which says, Jesus said, I am the vine and you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him, he'll bear much fruit. But apart from me, you can do nothing. And so my husband, he started quitting everything, not his day job, but all the things that he was doing in service. And he just said, I'm going to learn to abide. And we joked about it that year, saying that he was learning to be a human being instead of a human doing. And so at the end of that year, several things happened. I had been talking to God just in conversation, and I started to recognize what God's voice sounded like. And he sounds a lot like voice in my head, my thoughts. And I also started recognizing that these other thoughts I was having, that's not God. The fear, the anxiety, the depression, the anger. And it's not even my thoughts, because the word says that I have the mind of Christ. And so when those thoughts would come into my head, I would take them captive. I would stop. I would not let them roll around in my head like I used to. And I would redirect my thoughts to whatever's good, whatever's lovely, whatever's worthy of praise, whatever's excellent. I would start thinking on those things. And we learned that year that there is in maturity, there is a level beyond independence, and that's interdependence. And so we started depending on God and depending on each other in the body. Lately, I've been leaning on the scripture out of Isaiah 30, and it's verses 18 through 21. And the end of that passage, around verse 20 and 21, says that he, your teacher, will no longer hide himself, but your eyes will behold him, your teacher, and your ear will hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it as you go to the left or to the right. And that's what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to hear his voice, because I may have always gone to the left, but now he's telling me to go to the right. And we've got to tune in to hear his voice and to abide. And so the irony of all of this is I'm probably doing more now than I was even back when I was burnt out, but I'm not doing it because I should or because I care what you think about me. I'm doing it because I'm remembering my first love, and it's out of the overflow of my heart, and I cannot help but to serve him. And I'm yoking up to him, and I'm letting him lead me, and I'm doing it in his strength. And so it's really the power of abiding. It's shifted everything for me. And you know, in the church, salvation, it is essential. And the church is critical, and even musical worship. It's so important. But for me, to have the abundant life, the overcoming life, that victorious life that the Bible talks about, the secret has been in abiding. And it's really just made my whole life into an act of worship. And it's made all the difference.